All right, this is lesson 8.6, writing exponential functions from tables. And so now that we know how to find the equation of an exponential function from a graph, we are going to then apply what we know and find the equation from a table. And so if we look at problem number 1, they give us 2 points. They give us 0, 2, and they give us 3, 250. And remember, keep in mind, this is our standard form of an exponential equation. So A, keep in mind, is your start, and B is what we call your growth. Okay, your A is where x is 0. So to find the y-intercept, it's always where x is 0. And so we have that point given to us. That's that 0, 2. And so then my A is going to be 2, because that's provided for us as one of the points. What we're then going to do is we're going to put our points into our table. So we're going to go in order, so from left to right. So think of a number line and look at your x's. You have 0 and you have 3. 0 comes first, so the 0 has to come first. So this is 0, 2. And then we want to go up by ones until we get to the number 3. So this is 1, 2, 3. And then the 250 goes with the 3, so I'm going to write 250 here. Okay, perfect. What we have to then figure out is, if I know the A, which is the start, I need to figure out what my B is or what my growth is. So I'm going to use the numbers in my table to help me set up an equation to figure out what my B exactly is. So if I start here at this 2, I know that each time I want to get the next number in my table, I have to multiply by whatever my B is. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm multiplying by my B. And then same thing here, I'm multiplying by my B. So I'm using what I know from previous lessons to help me with this lesson. So if I start at the 2, I have to multiply by B 1, 2, 3 times in order to end up at the 250. So I'm going to set up an equation on the side to help me solve for B. Okay, I'm starting with the number 2. So I'm going to write the number 2. Okay, I'm multiplying by B, and I'm multiplying by 3 of them. Right? 1, 2, 3. And that's equaling 250. Okay, then I'm going to solve for B. So these are being multiplied. So to undo that, I'm going to divide, and I'm going to divide by the 2. So then I'm left with B to the third power equals, and then 250 divided by 2. That's 125. Okay, at the moment, I have B to the third power, but I only want one B, or B to the first power, so I only want 1. So because of that, I'm going to take the third root, and I have to do that on both sides. I do that so that this 3 cancels with this 3, so that I'm left with just B. Then in my calculator, I'm going to type in this third root of 125. So I'm going to press math. It's option number 4. And I'm going to type in 125. So it looks like B is 5. So my growth, or what I'm multiplying by, is 5. So here I'm going to write B equals 5. So then up in my table, I can fill in the numbers that I'm missing. I'm not multiplying by B anymore. Well, I know I'm multiplying by 5. And I'm going to test it and make sure that it works, and I end up at 250. So if I start off with 2 and I multiply by 5, I get 10. If I take 10 and I multiply that by 5, I get 50. And if I get 50 and I multiply that by 5, I get 250, which is the number that I already have in my table. So that's great. All right, I'm going to write my equation first, and then I'm going to decide if it's growth or decay. So I know my A is 2, and I know my B is 5. So my equation is going to be y equals 2 times 5 to the x power. There are multiple ways to write your equation. This is just one way. So if your teacher writes it a different way, it's totally fine. To determine if it's growth or decay, I'm going to put it in my calculator just so that I'm extra sure and verify what it is. So I'm going to press this y equals button, and then I'm going to type in 2 times 5 to the x. And I'm going to press graph. That way I can see if it's growth, decay, or if it's a reflection. Clearly, this is going up, it's increasing, so this is going to be growth. Okay, let's move on to example 2. All right, same type of example, same type of process. So you're given 2 points, and we want to write it in y equals a times b to the x form. You want to think about what your y-intercept is, and remember that's where x equals 0. And so if I look at my 2 points, x is 0 here, so my a is negative 3. Then the points that I am given, I'm going to write in my table, and make sure that you put them in order. So think of a number line from left to right. So I look at my x's, negative 3 is smaller than 0. So the negative 3 has to come first. And then I go in order. So the negative 2, negative 1, and then 0, because that's where my other point is. And so I have negative 192, and I have negative 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how many b's it takes to go from negative 192 to negative 3. So I multiply by b to get that next number. Then I multiply by b again to get that next number. Then I multiply by b again to get the next number. So that's 1, 2, 3 b's. So when I write my equation, it's always where I'm starting at, so negative 192. My b, how many of them I have, so 1, 2, 3. And then where I end up or where I land, so at negative 3. Then to get the b by itself, I have to divide by this negative 192. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So I'm left with b to the third power equals, and I have negative 3 divided by negative 192. Math, enter, enter. I get 1 over 64. Then because I just want one singular b, I'm going to take the third root. And I have to do it on both sides. So these 3's cancel. And so then in my calculator, let me type that in. 1 over 64. I get 1 over 4. And that's my b. So I get 1/4. So then, to fill in the rest of the numbers in my table, I know I'm not multiplying by b anymore. I know I'm multiplying by 1/4. And so I'm going to find the rest of the numbers in my table. So I have negative 192 times 1/4. That gives me negative 48. And then I'll take that and multiply that by 1/4. Negative 12. And just to verify and make sure I get negative 3, I'm going to then type that in. So that way I can double check. And I end up with negative 3, which is what I wanted. Let me write my equation first, and then we'll decide if it's growth or decay. So my equation is y equals negative 3 times 1 over 4 to the x power. Okay, then I'm going to type this in my calculator to decide if this is growth or decay. It could also be a reflection. So I'm just typing it the way that I see it, and then graph. Okay, so this is a reflection, and then we really want to think about it. If I flip this upwards, it's decay. So it's a reflection of decay. So this is a reflection of decay. All right, go ahead and turn the page, and we're going to do 2 more problems. Okay, so now that we know how to find the exponential equation from the table, we are also going to use the table to help us find a. So now they're going to give us 2 points, and those points will not consist of your start. You're going to have to work backwards or forwards to find your start. So these are my 2 points. And I want to make sure that I also include 0 in my table so that I know my start. Because these are positive, the 2 and the 5, I'm going to start my table with 0. Because if I think of a number line, 0 is in the middle and then the positives go to the right. So on the top, I'm now going to go up by 1. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you want to make sure that you cover the 2 and the 5, but also the 0 because that's your start. So where the 2 is, that goes with 18. And where the 5 is, that goes with 486. And I'm going to do the same process that we did on the previous page to figure out what my b is. So I start at the 18, and if I want to get to the 3, right, where x is 3, I have to multiply by b. Okay, if I want to get to the x is 4, I have to multiply by b. And if I want to get to that 486, I have to multiply by b. So when you write your equation, think about where you're starting off. You're starting off at the 18. Okay, you have b, you have 1, 2, 3 of them, and you end up at the 486. And then you do the same process we did on the first page to figure out what b is. So I'm going to divide by 18. I get b to the third power equals, I get 27. Then I just want 1b and I currently have 3, so I have to take the third root. This 3 cancels with this 3, so I'm left with b equals, and the third root of 27 is 3. So on the line where it says b equals, I'm going to write 3. Then now I can go up to my table and fill in the numbers that I don't have. So I'm going to fill out these 2 first, and then I'll show you how to go backwards. So it's not times b anymore, it's times 3. And so I want to verify and make sure that it works. So 18 times 3 is 54. 54 times 3 is 162. And 162 times 3 is 486. Perfect. However, I need my start, so I need to go backwards in order to figure out what my a is, right? Because that's where my a is. So as I move to the right, I'm multiplying. To go to the left, I just have to do the opposite. So I'm going to have to divide. So to go this way, I have to divide by 3. To go this way, I have to divide by 3. So if I take 18 and I divide by 3, I get 6. But I need to go one more over. If I take 6 and I divide by 3, I get 2. So ultimately, my start is going to be at 2. So then for part B, where it says, now complete the table using the growth ratio, well, I know that my A is 2. And remember, I like to do the growth or decay after so that I can put it in my calculator just to double check. So I have my A, I have my B, I can now write my equation. So I have y equals, my A is 2, my B is 3, and to the x power. All right, so here, I'll do it on the side right here. I'm going to type in my equation. So I have 2 times 3 to the x. And it looks like it's going to be growth. So this is a growth function, so I'm going to write growth. So the only difference between these problems and the ones on the first page is you have to go backwards to find your A. All right, we have one more. All right, so you have 2 points, and we're doing the same process. You'll notice that you don't have your start, your A, so you are going to have to work for it. Let's think about our x values. We have 1 and positive 5, so you want to think about and go in order. And you want to make sure that you include your start. Since these are positive, I want to put my 0 right here. And so then this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just want to make sure that you cover all of your numbers, your 2 x's and your points, and then obviously the 0 where the start is. So with the 1 is negative 2916. With the 5 is negative 36. Okay, we want to count and see how many b's it takes to go from here to here. So this is times b, times b, times b, times b. So when I write my equation, think about where you're starting at. Well, you're starting at that negative 2916. Okay, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 b's. And you're ending at that negative 36. Okay, so I'm going to go through the same process. I have to get rid of that 2916 in the front, so I'm going to divide by it. Okay, this will cancel. Let me put that in my calculator. So negative 36 divided by negative 2916. That's 1 over 81. And then I want to take the 4th root of that, so I'm going to take the 4th root. The 4's will cancel. And so then when I type that into my calculator, the 4th root of 1 over 81 is 1 over 3. So then my b is going to be 1 over 3. And so then when I look back at my table, I'm not multiplying by b anymore. I know that I am multiplying by 1/3. So I can fill out the rest of my table. So negative 2916 and then times 1/3. I get negative 972. Okay, and then I'll multiply that by 1/3. I get negative 324. I'll multiply that by 1/3. That's negative 108. And then I'll multiply that by 1/3. And I get negative 36. So always check to make sure that what you're multiplying by matches the numbers in your table. Then if I want my start, because remember your start is where x is 0. You have to do the opposite. So instead of multiplying by 1/3, I am going to divide by 1/3. So I'm going to take that negative 2916 and I'm going to divide it by 1/3. And I get negative 8748. Which makes sense because as I'm moving from left to right, my numbers are getting closer to like a positive, like they're getting closer to 0. And so it makes sense that this number, besides the negative, is bigger than this one. So then for my A, I'm going to write A equals, and then this number right here. I'll go back and answer the growth or decay, and I'm going to go and write my equation. So I have y equals, okay, my A, and I'm multiplying that by my B. And I'm going to type that in to see if it is growth or decay, or it could also be a reflection. So negative 8748, 1/3, graph it. It just takes a bit to load. And It's over here because this number is so big, but it's looking like it's curving this way. And so then when I reflect that upwards, it's decay. So this is a reflection of decay. I hope that helped. And now you can write equations based off points in a table.